My dear friends, have you ever felt invisible? You shared your ideas, your feelings, your time, and the people around you seem to ignore you. Maybe in a meeting, in a friendship, or even at home, it feels as if your voice doesn't matter, and naturally a reaction comes: anger, hurt, frustration, or even self-doubt. But here's the truth. When people ignore you, your reaction is not the solution. Reacting from hurt only drains your energy and gives away your power. Today, I want to show you what to do instead. I want to help you turn that feeling of being ignored into an opportunity for self-mastery, growth, and inner strength. We're going to explore why reacting never works, how to regain your mental control, and the simple steps you can take to rise above the noise and create your own path. My dear friends, the first step when someone ignores you is awareness. Awareness is like turning on a light in a dark room. The moment the light comes on, you see clearly what is happening. Most people, when they are ignored, react immediately. Their heart beats faster, the mind races, and words or actions follow that are often regretted later. But imagine a different approach. Instead of reacting, pause, observe, just notice what is happening. When someone ignores you, it is not always about you. Often, it is about their state of mind, their priorities, or their inability to engage. Awareness begins with recognizing your emotions. Ask yourself, what is happening inside me? Am I hurt? Am I angry? Am I trying to prove my worth? Many times, when people ignore us, our ego jumps in and says, I need to be acknowledged. I need them to see me. But awareness allows you to step back and realize that your value is not dependent on their recognition. You are not defined by their attention or neglect. You are defined by the way you handle your mind, your emotions, and your actions. Think of awareness as creating a space between stimulus and response. The person ignoring you is the stimulus. Your reaction is the response. Without awareness, the response is automatic, emotional, reactive, impulsive. With awareness, you can choose, you can pause, breathe, and decide how you want to act. This is not weakness, it is strength. It is the ability to hold your center, to not allow someone else's neglect to dictate your mood or your self-esteem. Consider a story. A young professional worked hard on a presentation and was ignored by the team leader during the meeting. Most people would feel embarrassed, angry, or frustrated, but he paused. He observed his emotions, acknowledged the disappointment, and instead of reacting, focused on what he could control, improving his work, communicating clearly, and preparing for the next opportunity. That awareness, that pause, turned a moment of neglect into a chance for growth. Awareness also brings clarity. You begin to see the situation objectively. You notice patterns. Maybe some people ignore out of habit, others out of jealousy, and some simply because they are distracted. The more you observe without reacting, the more you understand that being ignored is not an insult, it is information. It tells you about them, not about your worth. And in that understanding, there is freedom. Freedom from emotional chaos, freedom from impulsive reactions, freedom from letting someone else control your mind. When you practice awareness consistently, you train yourself to respond instead of react. You start noticing triggers without being trapped by them. You step out of the drama of being ignored and step into a calm, deliberate state where your energy is preserved, your focus is maintained, and your mind is clear. Awareness is the first step, the foundation upon which all other strategies are built. It is the quiet strength that protects you from unnecessary emotional storms and sets the stage for action that truly matters. My dear friends, the moment someone ignores you, the easiest trap to fall into is distraction. You start thinking about them endlessly. Why are they ignoring me? What did I do wrong? What will people think of me now? These thoughts pull you away from what truly matters, your inner work, your growth, your energy. The truth is, you cannot control other people, but you can always control yourself. And focusing on your inner work is the most powerful response to being ignored. Inner work means investing in your mind, your habits, your character, and your emotional strength. It means using the energy you would have spent reacting or worrying and redirecting it towards self-improvement. Imagine your mind as a garden. Every thought, every reaction, every emotion is a seed. When someone ignores you and you react angrily or feel hurt, you plant weeds in your garden. But when you pause, reflect, and focus on your own growth, you plant seeds of resilience, confidence, and wisdom. Over time, your garden flourishes and the weeds no longer have power over you. Focusing on inner work also teaches patience. Life will often place people in your path who fail to recognize your efforts. Maybe a colleague dismisses your idea, a friend forgets your contribution, or someone close does not acknowledge your feelings. It is natural to feel overlooked, but reacting impulsively only drains your energy. Instead, shift your attention inward. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I improve myself? How can I become stronger, wiser, calmer, and more grounded despite being ignored? These questions create momentum in the right direction. Consider the story of a student preparing for exams. His classmates often dismissed his opinions and ignored his contributions in group discussions. He could have reacted with anger or self-pity, but he chose a different path. He focused on his studies, refined his skills, and worked consistently. Months later, when the results came, he topped the class. The recognition eventually followed, but more importantly, he had built confidence and mastery that no one could take away. Focusing on your inner work is not about waiting for others to notice. It is about noticing your own growth and letting your progress speak for itself. This focus also builds emotional independence. When your self-worth comes from your inner development rather than external validation, you become untouchable by ignorance. Other people's neglect no longer shakes you. Their opinions, their attention, their approval or lack thereof stop controlling your emotional state. You remain calm, centered, and motivated because your source of strength is within, not outside. Remember, energy is your most precious resource. Every moment spent worrying about being ignored is energy wasted. Every moment spent reacting emotionally is energy diverted. When you focus on your inner work, you reclaim that energy. You transform a moment of neglect into an opportunity for growth, learning, and resilience. And slowly, without making noise, without seeking validation, you rise above, stronger than ever, while the noise of ignorance fades into irrelevance. My dear friends, when someone ignores you, the natural human reaction is to feel hurt, angry, or frustrated. You might replay the scenario in your mind, imagine the worst, or even plan a response that comes from a place of ego. But here's the secret: reacting emotionally gives power to the person ignoring you. It allows their behavior to dictate your feelings, your energy, and your peace. The true mastery is in choosing action over emotion. Responding with action doesn't mean confrontation or retaliation. It means channeling your energy into something constructive. Think of it as redirecting a river. Instead of letting the current sweep you away in anger or sadness, you build a channel that guides that water into growth, creativity, and purpose. Action is the antidote to being ignored because it keeps you in control rather than letting external circumstances control you. Imagine a young professional whose ideas are constantly overlooked at work. She could spend hours feeling bitter, gossiping, or trying to prove herself to those who ignored her. But she chooses action. She works quietly, diligently, and consistently improves her skills. She volunteers for challenging projects. She learns from every experience. She refines her expertise. Over time, her results become undeniable. People begin to notice not because she demanded attention, but because her consistent action created undeniable value. This is the power of responding with action instead of emotion. Action also builds self-confidence. Every time you act instead of reacting, You train your mind and heart to stay strong in the face of neglect. You teach yourself that your happiness, your progress, and your peace are not dependent on others. When you take steps to improve yourself, to complete tasks, to learn, or to help others, you reclaim the authority over your life. Emotional reactions often lead to regret, but purposeful action leads to growth. Furthermore, responding with action turns setbacks into opportunities. Being ignored is a signal, not a verdict. It signals a chance to invest in yourself, to improve your skills, to demonstrate your worth through deeds rather than words. Action transforms invisibility into impact. Even small steps, writing, learning, organizing, helping someone, or completing a task become victories over the emotional weight of being overlooked. And here is something deeper. Action fuels momentum. The mind craves results, and when you act, the results, no matter how small, feed your confidence, courage, and clarity. Instead of dwelling on neglect, you create forward motion. One small action leads to another, and slowly, the story of being ignored loses its hold over you. It fades while your achievements, your growth, and your inner strength grow louder and stronger. Finally, responding with action strengthens emotional intelligence. You learn to pause, observe, and choose your path. You see the difference between reaction and response, between ego-driven impulses and soul-driven purpose. And that mastery over your mind, your emotions, and your actions is what ultimately frees you from the grip of being ignored. My dear friends, one of the most powerful lessons life can teach us is this. Your growth is far more important than anyone's recognition. When someone ignores you, it can sting, it can hurt, and it can make you feel invisible. But if your attention is always on others, on whether they see you, acknowledge you, or validate you, you will spend your life chasing shadows. True peace and progress come when you shift your focus from seeking attention to nurturing your own growth. Imagine a gardener planting seeds in a field. The gardener does not demand applause from the seeds, nor expect the sun to praise the flowers. The gardener waters, nourishes, and cares for them quietly every day. And over time, the seeds grow into a flourishing garden. Your growth works in exactly the same way. It is not about proving anything to anyone. It is about cultivating your own skills, mindset, habits, and values consistently. When you focus on growth, recognition becomes a byproduct, not the objective. When people ignore you, it is tempting to waste energy on resentment or self-doubt, but that energy is precious. Every minute you spend worrying about why someone overlooked you is a minute you are not investing in yourself. Growth, on the other hand, gives you something lasting. Learning a new skill, improving your health, reading a book, practicing mindfulness, or even helping others. These are steps that no one can take away from you. They are yours forever. Focus on growth also transforms setbacks into lessons. Being ignored is not a reflection of your worth. It is a mirror of someone else's limitations or distractions. Instead of asking, why didn't they notice me? You can ask, what can I do to become better today? That subtle shift in question changes your entire mindset. Growth becomes your measure of success, not someone else's attention. Growth builds resilience. When your confidence is rooted in your skills, your values, and your progress, external neglect loses its power over you. You stop being swayed by criticism or praise because your identity is no longer tied to external approval. You learn to derive joy from your own efforts, satisfaction from your own achievements, and contentment from your own journey. Furthermore, focusing on growth creates magnetic impact. People who are deeply invested in their own progress naturally attract attention, respect, and admiration, but not because they seek it, rather because they earn it silently through consistency, dedication, and excellence. Your presence, energy, and accomplishments begin to speak for themselves. The very act of growing transforms you into someone who cannot be ignored, not through force, but through substance. And here is the most profound truth. Life is not about waiting for someone to notice you. It is about noticing yourself, recognizing your potential, and relentlessly working to become the best version of who you are meant to be. When you prioritize your growth over someone else's attention, you reclaim your power, you reclaim your peace, and you reclaim your purpose. My dear friends, as we come to the end of this journey, remember this simple truth. Life will not always acknowledge your efforts, and people will sometimes ignore you. But your value is not determined by their recognition. True strength, true peace, and true success come from within, from your actions, your growth, and your dedication. When you stop reacting to neglect and start focusing on your own journey, you become unstoppable. Every step you take in self-improvement, every small act of discipline, every choice to stay kind and purposeful, it builds your character and your destiny. So today, choose to rise above the noise, let go of the need for approval, and dedicate yourself to becoming the best version of you. Because when you grow, shine, and act with integrity, the world will eventually take notice, but more importantly, you will finally see your own worth.